All right, hi everybody. Good morning. Thanks for showing up. Dev, that was a good talk. I'm going to talk to you guys about Appia Energy Corp. We're a rare earth exploration company and rare earth element and uranium exploration company in northern Saskatchewan and Elliott Lake, Ontario. If I go too fast on some of the slides, this will be available on the website so you guys can grab them from there. Handouts are also just delivered to you guys. So just a quick summary about who we are. Again, we're an exploration company working in northern Saskatchewan mostly in the prolific Athabasca Basin area. We do have a world-class rare earth element project that I will be focusing on to you guys and provide you the details of why it's so important. And we've also got NI 43-101 mineral resource in Elliott Lake for both about 180 million pounds of rare earth elements and 47 million pounds of uranium. So just capital structure. I've been floating around 20 to 40 cents for pretty well the past year. Who we are, so our management team, we've got over 250 years of combined industry experience. And some of the names on there. Myself, I've been pretty influential in some of the most recent Athabasca Basin discoveries. NextGen Energy, if any of you are familiar with them, I was the lead geologist on that project. It led to the discovery, the Arrow discovery. Hathor Exploration, I was working with them, and modeling led to a couple other discoveries. And then with Denison Mines for their Griffin and Phoenix zones, which are now looking at going development for those. So over 550 million pounds discovered within 10 years. So our properties, again, the Athabasca Basin properties in northern Saskatchewan. The star up here is the Alces Lake property, close to the territories. And then we've got our uranium exploration assets over here, close to Manitoba, and the Elliott Lake region, not too far from where we are in Toronto. And despite what Dev said, not all of northern Saskatchewan is covered in lakes and swamps. We actually have quite a lot of rock up here, and so it's pretty easy to work up there in the summertime. But this is where we will be, or where I'll be talking about. You can see Uranium City here. And in the past, they had mined over 60 million pounds of U3 weight from Uranium City. So there's an airstrip in there, there's community, there's labor force, there's heavy equipment, and most important, they do have hydroelectric power up there. So we're about 20 kilometers away from good infrastructure. Our uranium assets, again, over on the east side of the province, but again, we're outside the basin, looking for basin-hosted uranium deposits, also close to pertinent infrastructure. So the Alces Lake property. Why is it important? It's important because we do have some of the highest grade rare earth elements ever discovered in the world. All of our rare earths are hosted in a mineral called monazite. And monazite's important because it is one of 4 minerals that have ever had economic rare earth extraction from it. There are over 50 rare earth elements in the world, but again, only 4 have ever had rare earth element extraction. But also there's 2 of all those 50 elements that have high concentrations of rare earth elements, and those would be bastnäsite, monazite. So again, we've got monazite, which is very lucrative for us. We've discovered a number of high-grade zones at surface. You can see an aerial shot here. It's over a small area, but with recent drilling from last year and this year, we've also discovered many zones that are occurring beneath the surface. So there are a lot of blind targets that we need to follow up on. In particular, our rare earth elements are enriched in critical rare earths. So critical meaning they're short on supply and very high in demand. So the elements like neodymium, praseodymium, dysprosium, terbium, these are ones that are going into magnets permanent magnets for electric vehicles, wind turbines, medical uses, and other such applications. The thing about rare earth elements, and this has been more recent in the past 10, 15 years, is that they're the seeds of our technology. Everyone has a cell phone on them, you've got rare earths with you. They're basically the building blocks of our new technologically advanced society. And so they're not going away anywhere. We're becoming a very rare earth necessary society. And so there will be a turn where, and we're seeing signs of it, where the rare earth elements, they're going to be necessary to a lot of major producers. And the big problem is that China controls a monopoly on it all. So I'll talk about that a little bit later on. Just to show you some of the areas. So again, last year was the first year that we actually did some pretty hardcore exploration on the property. The property was originally, one of the showings was originally discovered in the 1950s, exploring for uranium, found rare earths, and nobody had touched it until 2010 when Appia staked the property and did a couple of follow-up exploration on, just looking at surface and taking some boulder samples, and realizing that it was high-grade rare earths. And then last year, we decided to start going a little bit more in depth into this and actually seeing how extensive these zones were. And so we got a drill up there, we've got an excavator up there, established a camp. So we started defining some of these surface zones. And what we've found is that there is a lot of high grade at surface, which is absolutely wonderful. And even with what we've drilled so far, our average drill depth, we're looking at between 25 to 50 meters on angled drill holes. So we're not really drilling that deep. We've kept it very close to surface, looking for a potential open pit. So far, we've discovered 9 zones. Well, we've discovered 7 zones at surface, multiple zones beneath the surface, and then we've got a number of other surface zones that we still need to follow up on. So again, it just shows that this is a very large mineralized system, and that's something we will be capitalizing on in the years to come. So I've mentioned monazite, and if you don't know what monazite is, again, it's a mineral, just like quartz, just like feldspar. It is a mineral, and it's this red mineral here, or I guess orange in this color. But you can see the concentration that we have. So 85% monazite. When you convert it into rare earth oxides, 53% rare earth oxide. These are some of the highest grade rare earth oxides ever reported in the world. There's probably only one other company in the world that has grades that get up to this. So it's quite encouraging. If you want to put that in terms of gold, well, at today's prices, these things they're quite rich. So again, something like this it'd be equivalent to about 4 to 6 ounces of gold per ton. Tell me a gold company that would walk away from 4 to 6 ounces of gold per ton at surface. You can see the contacts of these things. They're easily mineable. We'll just pick right out of the rock, and we did that for a couple of samples. So with the drilling last year again, we completed the first ever diamond drill program on the property. So discovered in the 50s, wasn't drilled until 2018, so that's a long period of time of just no activity. And what we've shown is that we are seeing zones occurring beneath the surface, and the surface zones are extending beneath the surface as well. So there is some continuity going on. And just to show you an update of our property and the scale of it all. So again, between some of these zones, you're looking at about 75 meters, 80 meters. So it is a very small area. Really, we've still only scratched less than 1% of the entire property that we have. We've got over 14,000 hectares, and we focused on this one area right now. Learn the geological controls, see what is actually happening that will just basically learn what's going on, so that will help guide us into discovering more of these high-grade zones. And every time we continue exploring on this property, we just keep finding more and more. So this year, we just completed 44 short diamond drill holes. 40 of these drill holes intersected the mineralized system, so that's a 90% success rate. And of those 40 holes, 20 of those intersected the high-grade occurrences. So we're still waiting on assay results from about 32 of the drill holes, but those should be coming hopefully within a few weeks. We can see this stuff in the core. Let's jump over here. You can see it in the core. This is one of our best drill holes, IB1912. 16% total rare earth oxide over 15.5 meters, starting at 8.7 meters downhole depth on an angled drill hole. So again, you're right at surface. It's not even an open pit. My kids could mine this stuff. So that's from this red arrow down to this red arrow. And if you break out the high grade section, which is approximately 50% over 3.7 meters, again, within 10 meters of surface, you've got some very valuable ore there. And you can see the red. You know, this red just stands right out. It's very dense, very heavy. You can feel it when you lift the boxes. This is high-grade ore. And for any commodity in the world, you don't find stuff like this. You don't find 50% copper over X amount of meters. It's very rare. Just jump back. So again, we did define, with the drilling, we found 3 new subsurface zones again, so the system is robust, it continues, it grows, and we have identified widespread monazite mineralization, not just below the surface, but also at surface. This nice scenery, it's a beautiful area. So we're looking at some of our peers. Just a select few. This isn't all the rare earth projects in the world, but if you take the average of the groups in here, that's that gray line, and the average grade is about 1.9 total rare earth oxide. We're the guys in the red. So you can see here that our average grades of the zones that we're seeing. Again, we've got a number of samples to provide composite assay results. These values. So these aren't just one little rock chips. These are averaged over multiple samples. You can see our grades are extremely high. You can pretty well draw a line right here between Bayanobo and Kangabunte and say that you need a certain grade to get into production, which these guys all have had. Cara, Steenkomskrel, Mount Weld, Mount Pass, Bayanobo, they've all been in production. So we have that grade. We have that grade to get into production. We've also got monazite, as I mentioned, which is, monazite is one of the rare earth elements, or minerals, that is used for economic extraction of rare earth elements. So the grades that we have, again, it's not only that they're high, but just having high grades in general, grade is king. I'm pretty sure most of you have probably heard that phrase before, grade is king, and it's certainly true. So you'll see a number of companies, they'll report their relative distributions of rare earth oxides, but it's the actual total rare earth oxide grade that is the most important thing. Our critical rare earth oxide grades are nearly 1-to-1 with our total rare earths. So we've got about 25% of the total rare earth oxides are critical rare earths. So again, critical being neodymium, dysprosium, terbium, and praseodymium. Okay. 4 minutes. That's going fast. All right. So our exploration potential, as I mentioned, what I've shown you in the air photos, this is about the area that we're working in. So we've got a number of other showings that we've found so far, and this map continues to grow. So we know that there is far more exploration potential out there. We've also got heavy sands, so all of these outcrops have eroded, and we're assuming that the mineral sands have eroded down into the shore. That's what we've studied so far. We've got other bays that we still need to study, but again, the heavy sand potential exists there. We've got high elevated concentrations of scandium, which are comparable to some of the deposits out there today that are calling themselves scandium deposits. Also, the grades of rare earths that we're seeing in our sands are comparable to current economic sand operations. So again, another potential viable source of rare earth element sand operations. Very simple metallurgy because it's monazite. It's been studied for over 60 years, and the processing and extraction techniques are well understood, and they work. There's a pilot plant in Saskatoon, which handles 2,000 tons per annum, and then the extraction lab. These guys have technology and the knowledge on how to do it. Yeah, pretty well done. I got a couple more slides. So just touching on the uranium side of things, again, the uranium market is in the doldrums, but we're looking on the outside. We've drilled here and intersected uranium in both seasons that we drill, near surface, so again, and multiple areas as well. So this is shaping up to be a uranium-bearing district, also high-grade uranium at surface in both these areas. Again, why go underground when you can have it right at surface? This makes sense. Elliott Lake property, we keep that in our back pocket for when prices of both uranium and rare earths are a little bit higher, but again, we do have about 55 million pounds U3O8 and 180 million pounds of rare earth oxides in Elliott Lake. Historic mining camp that has mined over 360 million 2 pounds of U3O8. A little bit of the market. China dominates, rest of the world wants rare earth supply. That's where we come in. And just a quick summary, and then appendix tables. Any questions?
Does your bonus item component of thorium or other radioactive?
Yes, it does.
And is that problematic in extraction?
No, not at all, actually. In the extraction side of things, monazite or thorium would come out very early on, and it wouldn't affect any of the actual rare earth elements. Any of the rare earths extracted from monazite, which is what Linus Corp does in Mount Weld deposit, Linus Corp has in Australia. It's all monazite. So they have, they do their thing. But with us being in Saskatchewan, we have the knowledge. These guys know radioactivity. Like, they've been dealing with high-grade uranium. They know how to deal with it. Regulations are in place with the lab that's installed at SRC. They've already got permits in place to handle any radioactive materials. So to benefit for us, they would handle it all.